This video is the second part of VPC AWS infrastructure. So far, what we did, we set up a VPC in a region. That region has two availability zones. In one of the availability zone, we set up an EC2 instance. We tried to connect this EC2 instance with the public IP in the public subnet. Public IP definitely was not directly attached or applied on the EC2 instance level. Actually, it was available outside the virtual instance. So it's means some port forwarding happen whenever we are adding some rule in the security group that is doing the port forwarding towards this EC2 instance. So to understand this concept, what we did, we just create the EC2 instance, we install. By default, port 22 is allowed, and we did the port 22 SSH access by using the private keys, and we install an Nginx web server. We open the port 80 and we then add a port 80 rule in security group, and finally we were able to access the EC2 instance by using some web browser. So we understand this concept, we create the VPC and we divide the VPC into different networks. We create a private and public network in each availability zone. So today we have to understand what is the difference in between the public and private subnet. So to understand this concept, use I will create an EC2 instance, and this EC2 instance we will set up in the same availability zone. So far we are using everything in the availability zone of North California, that is US West 1. We set up some instances, a single instance in the public subnet of North California US West 1A availability zone. It has two availability zones, West 1A and 1B. So I will create another instance. This test instance I just created for some testing, just forget about this, but we have to set up another instance now. I will just copy the name of this instance just to make the things very clear. When we are going to provision the instance, its name should be quite meaningful so that we should not be every time click on the instance and understand where it is actually residing. So its name will be quite meaningful. So we are going to launch another instance. This time I am going to set up in the private. So I set up the name as private invest 1A. I will use the same Ubuntu image. Everything else is same. Username is Ubuntu. T2 micro is good. Key pair we already had. I type the same. The network setting. The VPC, the default VPC I deleted just to avoid any confusion. So right now we just have the VPC whatever we created. So in the West 1A private, so we have 4 private West 1A. So previously we used public public US West 1A. So this will be the subnet. I don't want to assign any public IP. As security group will be created, everything else is good. We just have to launch the instance. Go back to instances list, refresh, and here we can see this instance is almost ready. It will just takes a while to be initiated. So here this IP is allocated from the pool of the private subnet we use. You can calculate this IP is in between the range of the pool. So I already had a connection with my public instance created. So this newly created private subnet based EC2 instance is not reachable directly to internet. Although we can attach a new elastic IP, go to elastic IP, and I can allocate an elastic IP. So this elastic IP is available now. This is already we use to connect our public instance. This elastic IP I'm going to select and associate this elastic IP with the EC2 instance that is running in the private subnet. So here you can see the server name of the server is self-explanatory. That's why I used these names. And this IP is allocated. So this public IP traffic will be routed to this private IP. I will associate, but this will not work. So by default, the security group associated with this by default with this EC2 instance is allowing port 22, but we cannot do SSH or we cannot telnet. If I do a telnet to this public IP, it will not work. But when I will do telnet to this public IP, it will work. So let me show you telnet to public IP newly created. It gave us a blank output. It's mean it is trying to hit this IP, but this is not responding. But when I will do a telnet to this public IP, it will give me some meaningful message. You can see from the SSH response. So telnet is reachable, but even we attach the public IP with the private subnet, it is not reachable. So this is not the default behavior of private subnet to reach externally by default. So what is the situation now? We create this EC2 instance in the private subnet. It is connected with some network cable to this network switch that has some IP. This IP scheme is quite different. I just wrote these IP schemes to explain you, but in practically we use /28. So it is connected, but the gateway provided to this EC2 instance is not able to reach this internet gateway. So that's why it cannot reach. But the gateway provided to public subnets are connected to the internet gateway. So that's why the public IP is reachable to external network. So now, even though we attach the public IP, it does not work. So I will select this public IP. I will deassociate elastic IP because attachment of public IP to the private instance does not make any sense. And I will simply, I can simply release this IP, but later on I can use this IP for any other purpose. So it's better to just release it. When we need it, we will create. Okay, now we just have one public IP and by using the same public IP, I am able to reach the virtual instance in the public subnet we created in the previous session. Now, I want to reach to this private instance. Its IP is 20.20.20.132. If I do a ping, it will not work. Why? Because the security group by default is not allowing you to route to forward any traffic of ICMP inside the instance. So I'm going in the security and the security group of this EC2 instance. And here you can see the inbound rules, only SSH is allowed. I will edit the inbound rule, will add a rule, custom ICMP v4, and I want to allow ICMP traffic to be reachable from any network. Save the rule. Now go back and you can see the EC2 instance is reachable by ICMP. Now I can reach to this instance by using SSH, but by default EC2 instances are not designed to be reachable by the using some username password. So EC2 instances are only configured to be reachable by some private and public key combination. So we must have to use the same public key, the private key that was generated. We attach with this EC2 instance, this new EC2 instance. So that private key, you remember, we generated for the PuTTY usable, for the Windows-based SSH client as usable, and we generated that in the format of .ppk. But we need a PEM formatted private key to use in the Linux, because now we will do an SSH from this machine that is in the public network to this machine that is in the private network. So that file is not available on this machine, and I have this private key pair ppk available on my machine. So I must have to convert this ppk into PEM format, and then I will upload in the public subnet associated EC2 instance. Then I will use this PEM file to reach to private EC2 instance. So think like this machine is acting just like a jump server. From by using this jump server, you can connect publicly, and then you can land to any other network in EC2 instance, or any other EC2 instance. So far what happened, from this instance I ping by using this network switch. This network switch is connected with this network switch, and routing is happening to reach to this network. So although these two are totally different network, but it is a responsibility of AWS VPC infrastructure to make sure that all the networks are reachable to each other. So when I will create an EC2 instance across the different availability zone, it will also be reachable. So this is within the same data center, but this is physically separated data centers, and a dark fiber is laid by AWS in between these two data centers, and we can even reach to different EC2 instance by using that network connectivity. So we will see that later, but right now our target is to convert the created ppk file into PEM. And at the time of creation we can directly use the PEM file to reach to create a, while we created the key pair. So PuTTyGen tool you need to install, and in the PuTTyGen you can click on load. You can select the ppk file, then click on conversion, export open SSH key, click yes, same location I will create the same name file with the PEM. Save, and here you can see the PEM file is created, but it is usable by Linux only. Now I will go to this mobile and here I have to upload this PEM file. Mobile is giving you the leverage of making very easy file transfer in between Windows and Linux. So you don't need to install WinSCP like tools. So now I can see this PEM file is reached on my public reachable EC2 instance. Now if I go to EC2 instances, select any instance, just click on connect. So here last time I showed you how you can see the username associated with the AMI we used. And here on the SSH client, it gives you the information how you can reach to this machine. So here it is saying that you must have to change the permission of this PEM file to 400. By default, you know, it's not 400. So we will run chmod 0400 VPC key pair PEM. If you are confused about this permission issue, you can see my videos on Linux administration. Here the permissions are changed. Now we can use SSH-I VPC pair and then the username at the rate, the IP of the second instance that is already reachable by ping and SSH we are going to test. Yes, it is reachable. Adding the public and private key pairs, and here I jump into my private subnet. Okay, so here you can see in the private subnet, this is the IP of this EC2 instance, and this is the broadcast ID. So its IPs are usable up to 142. Okay, so now we use our public subnet EC2 instance as a bastion host, as a jump server to reach our private subnet. We can create a Windows machine too, we can do an RDP, and this is the only way to reach inside the private subnet because it is secure. It is not designed to be reachable directly from the internet. Here in the private subnet EC2 instance, if I do a ping to internet, if I do a ping to internet, the name to IP resolution is working. The DNS provided by AWS DHCP of the same network is working. You know, we selected the DNS configuration while we created the VPC. So DNS provisioned by the VPC by default, but it is not reaching to the external network. Why? Because this private subnet EC2 instance is connected with this network switch, but this network switch is not connected with this internet gateway. So we can create a NAT gateway. We cannot directly attach a public IP to this private network. So to provide the internet to EC2 instance in the private network, we can use a NAT gateway. What is NAT gateway? NAT gateway is very simple. It is just like a router. Just like a router that we are using in our home, some ISP provider is giving you internet at your home. What ISP provider is doing? They are just giving you a cable. They are saying just take this cable and connect it into the WAN port of your router, or they will provide you the router. When you will connect that WAN port with the network cable provided by the ISP, it will give you the public IP on the WAN interface. And there is a LAN interface where you are connecting your mobile phone, tablets, laptop, whatever internet. So one side is with the local network and one side is connected with the public network. So this public interface is connecting with the internet gateway, and the public IP will be generated by internet gateway, and it will connect to this NAT gateway, and the private side will be connected to the private subnet. So now we have to create a private NAT gateway. So to create the NAT gateway, click on NAT gateways. There is no NAT gateway by default created. Make sure you are in the same region where we started. Create a NAT gateway. Give the name of the NAT gateway. I can say NAT West 1A, NAT GW, in West 1A. Just I want to see, yes, West 1A. And to which subnet I want to connect. Whatever subnet I will select, its LAN cable, this router LAN cable will connect with the network switch, this network switch, whatever I will select. So I want to connect this NAT gateway to private network, to the public subnet of the West 1A. So this we can say this is not like connecting interface that will be pointing to the private network. Actually, this is we are connecting to the public network. So its cable will go to this public network switch, and then public network is by default connected to the internet gateway. So here publicly we want to reach, we need an elastic IP on the WAN side. The example I gave you for the ISP. So I will allocate a public IP. It just quickly created a public IP in elastic IP list. I will show you, and it is connected. Just make sure you selected the proper network. Create NAT gateway. NAT gateway is in the process of creation. It will take a while to set up. Just go to the elastic IP, refresh. You can see another elastic IP is created, and its association is not done so far with the NAT gateway because NAT gateway is under process. Okay, so now our NAT gateway is ready. It's available. State is changed. Here, very important information. This is a router. It has one interface connected to the WAN network. One interface is connecting to the private network. So whatever zone we selected, availability zone we selected, so its cable is connected to the private side too. So now you can see up the EC2 instance, its IP is connected to the LAN side, to the public subnet. And now these two networks, are interconnected with each other. So this network will route all the internet traffic through this public subnet, and then public subnet will forward to this NAT gateway and to internet. Now we have this resource available, but still our internet will not work. Session is terminated. There is a limited time of SSH connectivity in for EC2 instances by AWS. So I will again do an SSH ping internet. It is not working. So NAT gateway is just like, you can say, we just provision the internet at our home, but we have not connected with the network cable to our devices. So how we can connect? So that will come here in the route table. In the route tables, by default, whenever you are going to create the EC2 instance, the routing tables are created. You can see here a routing table with the name public, and there are two routing tables with the name private. This public routing table, go to the routes. You can see this routing table is giving us the information. You can route traffic to this whole subnet. Mean our rest of the subnets are associated within the same subnet /24 range. So all these subnets are interconnected with these route tables. And if you go in any route table, you will see this 20.20.20.0/24 is reachable by local connectivity. Okay, so this routing rule is able you to connect with the external different networks. So here in the public network, just take a look that a default gateway is attached with the internet gateway. So we will understand this, but so far we have to see in the West 1A routes, and here the route is only to reach the local network. Here you can see the subnet association. This subnet is associated. They are private. It's 128/28, and you can see this IP is from the same network. Okay, so this is the subnet ID. So now we have to click on routes, edit routes, add route. I want to add all unknown IPs. This means the default route for all the unknown IPs other than this network to NAT Gateway. And I have this NAT Gateway I just created. But here you can see the list of other ways to also route the traffic to the external network. I will show you these other way of routing the traffic. Just I would like to give you a quick information about instance. So how instance can route my traffic to the public network? If I don't want to provision a NAT gateway or internet gateway, whatever, I can use my public subnet EC2 instance as a router. So I have to, in the Linux, you can configure a Linux with the public and private networks. Both are connected with the different network, and you can use that machine as a router. So we can also do that, but that for that reason we have to enable the, the netting in the EC2 instance. But so far we have to understand the NAT gateway, so I will only attach the NAT gateway. I just create it, save the settings. It is associated. Just go back to the route tables, verify that the NAT is associated. I just need to clear one thing. I was just testing something in the other zone. In the other routing table, I just delete that wrong entry. So here it is now connected. Now I will ping internet, and you can see the traffic is routing and it is reachable to the internet in the private subnet. So how the traffic is reached, just I will switch to the root user, apt update. This is the Ubuntu machine. I will install trace route. I will just do a tracer to the public IP to see how the routing is happening. So I'm sending a traffic to outside network. Here you can see the traffic is first landed to its local gateway and then to the public IP. So this IP is associated with the NAT gateway. the other side, and then it is traveled to outside the network, outside the VPC network and to the internet. So, and if you look here, the default gateway is this IP, but to route to the internet, it is using this IP. Okay, so this is a special IP used to route the traffic. So now uh, this is done. We understand the concept of the public and private subnet. So now we know EC2 instance, security group, public subnet, private subnet. We know how route tables are working. We know how NAT gateways you can create. So NAT gateway is a resource that is working on availability zone level. So NAT gateway, if I just click the NAT gateways, so NAT gateway is a resource that is workable at availability zone level. This EC2 instance is workable at availability zone level. So for each availability zone, you can create a NAT gateway and you can route your traffic to provide the internet to the public, to the private networks. So route table is done. So now we have to understand the internet gateways. So internet gateway is a resource that already created with the VPC when we create, and it's you can say it's a region level of resource. It is reachable to all the availability zones. And this NAT gateway is responsible to provide you the public IPs, is responsible to route all the traffic in from external, from internet to uh, your VPC network attached devices, and from VPC devices to outside the internet. So here in the route tables, in the public subnet, in the routes, you can see all the default unknown traffic is routing to the internet gateway. If you added this, you can see this internet gateway is selected. If you just remove this route, this static route added in this routing list of internet gateway, it will become just like a private subnet. It will not connect to the internet. So the only difference is here in the routing table. So far we make only one private subnet to be reachable to internet. Same you can do here, and here you can add a route, but you need to create a new NAT gateway with a new elastic IP to the relevant uh, public network, and then it will be reachable to the private network. So it will connect with the availability zone level. So I hope you understand the route table, the NAT gateways. We are done almost with all of our resources. The last thing is network ACL. So what is network ACL? Network ACLs, it comes under the security section. These are the security groups we so far created. Actually, I created some other EC2 instances. That's why we are looking here, but only two are attached with our EC2 instance. So the better way to work with the security group, just select the EC2 instance and then go to the security tab and select the relevant EC2 instance to add the rules. And here, network ACL. Network ACL is this interface. Whenever the internet traffic is coming to your VPC or from external network, it is first analyzed by this network ACL and then forwarded to internet gateway, or you can say this internet gateway has a firewall built in that is working as a network ACL. And then this traffic is forwarded to the publicly reachable uh, instances or resources, or to the public IP we generated, just like the elastic IPs. So we added these rules in the security groups. So think like if you have multiple networks in each availability zone, you have multiple availability zone, and each availability zone has multiple private networks, and only one public network will only be available. So, and you have a lot of EC2 instances in different location, and you want to control centralized access of all EC2 instances with the security group related rules. So you can put a higher level of rule at ACL level. So this higher level of rule will filter the traffic while entering into the VPC. If someone allow a wrong port mistakenly to security group, you don't need to go each and every security group and validate either this is allowed or not. You can put a greater level, a higher level rule at a network ACL, and it will be filtered here. And then that traffic will be routed to inside the internet gateway. So if you want to enforce some high level of network policy, we can use this. So let's try to set up this network ACL. So this network ACL is also by default created with your internet gateway. Select this network ACL. Here you can see inbound and outbound rules. And it is just like the firewall rules, and you know we are setting the priority level of in the firewall. The lower priority will be considered first, and then the higher priority will be will be used at the next level. So by default, there are two rules with the rule number 100 and a star. Star mean it is applicable to all. So by default, you can see the 100 is the with the higher precedence. So everything is allowed. Deny is not working because this star is less than is greater than this 100, and this outbound also has allow to all traffic. So by default, this network ACL configured to inbound, outbound, all the traffic. But if I do one thing, I want to show you that if I start the Nginx service again, and here you can see the port 80 is now open, and the public IP associated with this EC2 instances. So this EC2 instance has this public IP. I will just go to my browser, try to access this, and it is reachable. Okay, now if I want to control this traffic from network ACL level, how it will work? I can go to EC2. This is in the inbound rule, edit inbound rule, and here it is all traffic. So I don't want to allow all traffic. I just want to allow SSH from any IP. Save changes. Now inbound rule is not for all, only for SSH. I can see my SSH session is intact, but when I will do a refresh to this page, it will give me an error. This time it is trying to reach, but in some seconds it will give you error. So what happened at this very first level, this page is blocked. So it is now not reachable. So a higher level of network ACL is applied. Again, I will go to network ACL. So whatever traffic is landing to the main router of your VPC is denied at the first level, even although we allowed in the security group, but security group is working at the second level. So here you can enforce some specific rules. So I don't want to allow any other port other than port 22. So then this rule is working. This is denied. Now, if I added this rule and I want to add a new rule with the priority, for example, I can say 99. First check this one, then check this one. So it depends on your rule. I want to allow only port, I can say 8181. Okay, and this is the to all the subnets. Okay, just save. You see inbound rule. This rules comes up. First this will check, then this rule will check. Rest of all traffic is denied. Okay, so only these two rules will apply, and then in last this star will apply. That's why everything else is denied. So now I can only reach to port 8181, but my Nginx is running on port 80. So what I will do quickly, I will go in the Nginx config file. I will change the port to 8181. Nginx, nginx.conf, and here, yeah, in this file, these are the further references. There is a default file at this location, and here you can see the port 80. I will use 8181. Rest of all is good. I don't need to change anything. So simply restart the Nginx service stat, and here you can see the port 8181 is opened. Now, although I allowed port 8181 on network ACL level, if I do refresh, it will not work still. What is the reason? Because the traffic is landing to this network ACL from internet. Network ACL allowed port 8181. It is going to the public network, but this security group is not configured to allow port 8181. You remember we configured this to allow only port 8080. Now it is blocking at the second level. So now we will go to public EC2 instance, security, and security group, uh, inbound rules, added inbound rules. I want to allow 8181, so I will use this time the custom protocol. It's TCP type of port, sorry, uh, custom TCP port 8181, save rule. It's done. Just refresh this page. I allocated this in this proper uh, EC2 instance. Let me just check once again. EC2 instance in the public security group. Port 8181, everything is good. It should be reachable. Just port 8181 is good. Let's see again. Inbound rule. I did any mistake. Maybe the custom port 8181. I think I have to select this IPv4. I don't know exactly. Should not be the reason. Sorry, my bad. I must have to type here the port number. So this time port number is changed to 8181. So previously it was 8080. I was hitting on port 8080. So now it's reachable. So everything is good. I was just thinking why this is not working. Everything was good. So we just allowed at two levels. So filter happen at two levels. First at network ACL level and then at security group level. And then traffic reach to EC2 instance. So I hope you got the idea of all these concepts. Instance, security group, public subnet, private subnet, route table, NAT gateways, internet gateway, ACL, and elastic IP. And you must have a good idea of all these concepts: subnetting, netting, patting, port forwarding, firewalls, rules, how this is working. So then you can understand better the VPC infrastructure. So we are good with this one. If you have any question, you can leave in the comments. I will answer you.